Okay, we're back.
Yes, sir.
All right, very good. Wet lab number 2, Saturday. What we're going to do on this wet lab is we're going to do OCT on a rodent. In this case, we've got a rat that we've anesthetized, and we're going to put the rat on the table. This is fat rat. Fat rat's been around here for a few years now, and we definitely love her. We take good care of her. So I'm going to move fat rat out of the induction chamber, which, you know, as I showed, I did that in the mouse, and you can see this is of the size to do rat as well. And then I'll go ahead and make the switch over to her face mask. There we are. Okay, so where should I be? Come here? Okay, sir. Got to get my stage cues right here. All right, very good. All right, mouse is now in our extra large size face mask, so you can vary those depending on the size animal you're working with. Then now that we're going to do the OCT, we've already talked about the platform, so you can make all your adjustments for different animals, and then the gimbal for adjusting and positioning whatever imaging modality. Now this time we have the fundoscope, and now we're going over to the OCT. So this is our OCT system. It is comprised of basically our scanner, which has the ability to be mounted or as well as can be handheld. And then this all connects to our iVivo imaging platform. And this is the OCT and also has a very, very powerful i7 computer platform. So this becomes our platform for connecting a bunch of other things, but also having OCT, or you can load the fundoscope on there as well. And when we have some other interesting imaging modalities coming along, they'll plug into this platform as well. So that's the overview. And then just to go to the software very quickly, this is our OCT software. You can see this image is on the screen right now. And that image is actually being on our what we call our phantom. So this is just a way for us to be able to check layers and thickness and make sure that everything is operational with the system. I'll go ahead and take that off. And I've already have a tropicamide in the eye here. And what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to let Sean take over and do the positioning. And I think that's where we're going to go from here now. Okay, so Sean, you want to take this over? I guess the first thing to do is we're going to look at the cornea.
Yeah. So the same thing with the fundoscope earlier. As we mentioned, we have our pointer that will help alignment. Now, the pointer and the fundoscope and the pointer and our OCT work the same. We can align the eye up to the pointer here. Now, the rat, of course, is a little bit heavier. So it might take a little bit more adjusting to get him just right. But I've got him where I want him. And I will take this pointer off. And from here, I can start to come in on the OCT itself. Now, the OCT has a built-in light. And we'll be able to see what we're going to image on the right side of the screen here. Now, if I move him down, now we start to see his eye come into play here. I'm actually going to change him at a little bit of an angle because I want to look a little more straight into his eye here. And I can see we're getting really close. Let me see if I can adjust the focus here a little. I'll back it out just a little bit here. And with that minor adjustment, we can see that I've got the cornea that came into play here. Now the same with fundus OCT, it's important to keep the eye lubricated here. We will get better images with a lubricated eye.
Actually hydrated. You know,
hydrated.
You want to avoid lubricants because the refraction may affect them. Okay, so now you can see the cornea is coming into the left screen. You got the pupil or the eye image on the other. So this is a way that you can see that you are already in position between the two lids and into the cornea. So this should show you a very nice optical pathway to continue on the onto looking beyond just the cornea. Now we could do a little bit of looking around from this position and look see some different parts of the cornea. You can also see as we make some very minor motion changes, you can see that the intensity of the signal can also increase as well. You see a little tear film, you see a little water droplet edge on there because you see on top of the eye, that's what that little artifact is. That looks pretty good. You can see the retinal, see the corneal layers.
Now from here, there's a few things we can do while scanning with the OCT. Of course, if we were to stop our scan, we now have our images, and we're able to review through all the images we've captured. We can save, of course, single images. We can save all images, and from a configuration tab, and most all OCTs have settings that you can adjust to size, width. We can adjust whether it's a horizontal scan, vertical scans, and we can also adjust the width of the scan. So if we wanted to look into a much more concentrated area, of course, we can drop down our width, or we can open the width and come back and start the scan. And as we see now we have a much tighter cornea in here.
Because we're compressing so much information in there, it kind of changes the geometry of what you see. Because anybody who knows a mouse or a rat says that corneal curvature looks really weird. In fact, it is weird. But when in post-processing, we were able to actually stretch that out so you get back to the normal curvature as well. Back up. Need to go to your width is not right.
Yeah,
zero width.
Too far.
Zero width. Too narrow. That's good.
All right.
There. So now that's a more zoomed in segment of the cornea as well. You can stop that and we can save those corneal layers as well. It really is the OCT in any system, you know, there are people who are going to work the anterior segment and those who are wanting to do things in the posterior segment. What we're trying to establish with our OCT is that you can pretty much with one system move from front of eye to back of eye. So we're able to capture all, you know, a bunch of this data. Now, we have a little bit of breathing artifact you might see. If with a little bit of time, I probably would go to the rat and I would do some things just to kind of stop that little breathing artifact. But for the sake of the wet lab, I don't really want to try to make it better because then I usually break something. So let's just be happy with this image right now. But just to go through the process, even though there's some motion artifact, what we can do in our system is hit the stop scan and then show how we can actually capture 3D and radial and some other types of imagery. So as you can see down to the left, there's capture volume scan, radial scan, circle scan, and long scan. And you can see that right now it's literally going through slice by slice through the cornea and is capturing a whole stack of information. Now, typically, you would have those images have literally be very, very uniform, and then you'll be able to restack that information. We have another OCT we captured, so we'll show how that works. The rat motion here is a little too much for what we would want to try to process for 3D, but it gives you basically an idea of how it all works. Yeah, okay. So once this is complete, it's going to save the scan. Yeah, it's okay. Right, we'll review this anyway.
So on this, the same as when I captured our images earlier, we had 16 of them, but now doing the volume scans, we can go upward to 512 different images. So as I'd mentioned earlier, and Daniel had also mentioned, it was scanning horizontally through the eye, I believe horizontally, and we can go through and we can review all of the different images that were taken. Now, 512 images we're able to put into a free software ImageJ and capture 3D images, as Daniel had mentioned. We'll get in and we'll actually look at the retina of this rat here. And then after that, we'll go in and take some images and put it through and show how to get a 3D and what we've actually gotten on some of our 3D images.
Yeah, not to make this an OcuScience, OCT show. That's not my intent. What I'd like to kind of twist the conversation a little bit about just OCTs in general. OCT applications, each system is going to have the ability to capture cornea or posterior imagery. They may require different optics and things such as that. So all of those tools are basically usually available on almost every OCT system. One of the things that also OCT systems should have is the ability to do measurements. Sean's up here, he's kind of showing how we can do some real-time measurements of the 2Ds on the screen, and we can of course save those. There are other software programs that you can purchase for segmentation and other measurement analysis. Those are available, and we're also wanting to make those types of analysis available for animals, because the Zeiss glaucoma software may not necessarily be a good fit for trying to do glaucoma in an animal model. So what we are trying to do is build a core base of data, and then we want to start building out the analysis from people, people like you online, to give us feedback. What type of analysis do we need? And make that specific to different species as well. Because that's, right now, we've got a good data collection tool, but the world of doing analysis in detail in different species in OCT is still a wide open area. So as you can see, we've got the scan images up here. We've got the cornea. You can see that we're non-contact on the rat at this time. Sean's going to put a little bit of hydration on there, and then I think we're going to go ahead and move on into the retina, right?
Yes. So I will go back to our scan here. And now simply with this, we can move this forward. Our OCT moves towards the eye. Other OCTs move the eye towards.
Notice the rolling of the image going to the top and then back down, as Jill probably has mentioned a couple times in her discussions. You can see that action occurring. And as you continue into the eye, you'll see it roll down off the screen. Now, sometimes that rolling down image can create an artifact depending on what you're looking at. There we are. There we are. And then now you can see what looks like a retina for a rat. And you can kind of see on the right the fundus, and then you're seeing the OCT on the left.
So you'll see as the blood vessels come into focus in the inner retina, you'll see that they cast a shadow, a dark shadow. So that was the difference between the retinal folds that we saw, which were in the outer retina, and the retinal blood vessels, which are in the inner retina.
And yeah, so you can see on the right the correlation of the vessels coming into the optic nerve on the screen on the right. You can see there's kind of a flickering going on in that nice little black circle. That's the lumen of the vessel. And what you're seeing that flickering through there are the platelets as they're coming through the 2D plane of the OCT. So this is the type of information that we want to capture at 80 kilohertz range, because once we have that good vessel data and we can see those changes, those shear changes, that is going to be the underpinning, or is the underpinning, for doing things like OCT angiography. Okay, so let's go ahead and do a little scan, capture 2Ds of that, and do a little quick test and show some example data. Or
so here are just the simple 2D images there that we can average through here as well.
That's a fast average. That's one we do have the ability to do that here. You can see that does kind of crisp it up a little bit.
And we can take measurements off there, or Of course, if we wanted to do one of our larger scans, we can capture a volume scan of the retina as well. Now we can see all the different vessels, they kind of come in and they all converge here and turn into this optic nerve set here, and then we'll move out of that as well as it scans down the eye.
Very nice. That was actually a very, other than a little bit of motion artifact, that was actually a pretty nice scan. See, now I wish I would have had that rat heads nice and still, then I would have some really nice data to reuse. But yeah, I think you can see from this pretty much, it's very nice and consistent. You're getting good segmentation and layering all the way through the motion. And that's always a challenge when doing 3D OCT with my system or otherwise, just to, you know, it's something you gotta, sometimes you don't know where the scanner's going and how well it's focused in, because, you know, you might be on the absolute back of the eye and then you start moving to the forward edge of the eye and you've got the curvature to deal with. And now you start rolling off of the screen because now the tissue distance is different. That's one of the challenges of doing 3D OCT. And that's one of those things where practice basically makes perfect. You have to do it enough times to really get a feel for where your position is and that you can capture a nice solid block of data. Okay, so that's basically OCT on 2D and 3D. So that's all of our caption capability. What I'd like to go into is kind of show some of this, our pretty data, and talk about what everyone does to make their data pretty. It doesn't matter what system, you get some raw images, but before you really want to do much with them, you want to add those images together, average them, stack them, denoise them, and do things so that they're easy to analyze and the segments all show up very nice and clear. For us, we're going to show you a tool that we have that comes with our system. It's called the VQ software, and it will allow you to do averaging, average and stack certain images together, and also do some colorization using a LUT functionality. So I'm going to pass this over to Sean. He'll go through the VQ, averaging, and LUT, and then I guess then he'll also we'll start getting into the image J. You got that pack ready? Okay, then we'll also do image J as a tool for doing 3D rendering. Okay, I'm going to pass it over, move out of the way here for Sean.
Now from here we can pick out any sets of images we'd like to average. And of course, almost all OCTs will come with a different sort of averaging software. This one is just ours. I'll take image 10 here and set that as my base image. And then I'll come in and take 8 through 12 to average in with those images. I can register them, and those will actually image quite a bit, or I can add more. So if I want to do 6. See, I'll take a different one. Okay.
Up or down? For the one. Yeah, that's what I mean. This image language is different. base frame. Let's just go pick a different base. Grab a different base. Let's try that. I'm not sure what it sticks. Of course, you discover something new and then go where online. Okay. Fringes. I'm going to save image. There we go.
There we go.
Sorry about that, folks. Okay, so wait, before you do anything else, save image, just kind of take a quick moment here, folks, to kind of see the difference of what happens when you do averaging, okay? So let's look at some of the obvious things. If you look at the overall screen, you can see there's less noise in the averaging. So that's one of the improvements with doing stacking and averaging, is that noise, since it doesn't have a continuous signal, gets basically canceled out. Then secondly, one of the things I want to point out is you can look at the top edge, you see the vascularity of this rabbit retina. Those little dots, like little circles on the top, are just a whole bunch of vessels. And you can see from image right to left, or left to right, there is some more accentuation in those. In some areas, they get a little bit more blurred out. It kind of depends on just the activity within that particular vessel. And then the other thing I'd point out is that you see even more detail in the retinal layers. For sure, you can see that over here, you can see the line kind of coming through in this layer, but now it gets nicely accentuated as well. And you get down here into the outer segments as well. Those really start to accentuate in the averages in your the average images. And that makes it a little easier for doing the segmentation later on, as well as for more precise types of measurement. Now, the other thing that we're able to do, so this software basically is very quick to use. You can pick up any of the images, and then you can average and stack those and use those for subsequent analysis. And I think we're going to save that image. Good. Okay.
Okay, and then I can come in through my histograms, and if I wanted here, turn this on here.
So what he's doing is he's selecting a LUT. So we want to pick some base images, and then we're going to pick a certain type of LUT strategy. There's a variety of them. He's going to pick Royal in this case, and Royal is going to apply a certain color spectrum to the grayscale of the OCT. And so that was kind of a random shot. You can kind of see some of that layering effect is increased or decreased, and that kind of accentuates the layering of the retina as well. It makes also for some very pretty images.
So I don't know if you noticed there was a comment there. How many images did you finally average for the image on the right? Was it like...
So, that's a good question. Let's go back. I believe you selected like 6 of them.
That's what I thought. It was like 6 or 7 or something.
I selected 6, and out of those 6, it decided to use 5 of them.
Okay.
Selected 6, range use 5. It'll throw it out if it just doesn't have enough edge detection and recognition to overlay.
And of course, these can be fine-tuned to the amount of images desired, and the acceptance of the difference of the images can be changed, as you guys saw me changing the 0.2 to 0.1 to 0.05, just to allow it to accept more of a range of images. Of course, if you scan into the eye and it turns your image, if you're too far off, it won't want to average those. But so that's just an idea of averaging, what averaging looks like and what it looks like to apply color. I would also like to pull up and show just a simple 3D image here. So I will open a program, and I see here, so in a clinical setting, a patient that is moving is a good idea to avoid the 3D and higher density scans. Of course, an awake animal, it's very, very difficult to get scans that are close enough to turn into a 3D image. And I can show you on screen here with just an idea of the rabbit volumes that we were looking at here. So if we were to take this rabbit volume, as we can see, it moves, and that's because it was not quite as stable of a surface as we could have gotten. And if I were to take these and push them in and try and make a 3D stack out of them, I can actually show you guys what that would look like to get a fairly failed 3D image here. So I'll try and run through this fairly quickly. On my wrong screen. So as we see here, we can definitely see how the pictures curve. And of course, this wasn't a 512 image file, so it's not quite as wide as a true 3D would look. It is 3D, and we can look into here, and we can zoom in and scroll and change the size of it to look into there. But of course, having the more stable the animal is, the more stable the equipment is, the less movement and breathing there is, the better chance of getting a lot more images and being able to use those images and stack those images to be able to do something like a 3D image on this software here. But if I do, say, this one, which I've gotten very good results with this set, I will change this into here. Yeah, my stack. Give that just a moment. Now this will take a little bit longer. As you can see, it's trying to duplicate the 512 different images to allow me to do a 3D on here, and I will just simply open that up. Okay. Now we can see this on screen is much better as a 3D image. So we can come in here, we can tell there's the optic nerve. We can see the vessels coming down through the back of the eye.
Drag it, let go and drag. Pull again.
And then we can see through the top of the eye. Now from here, we see a lot of noise. Sorry, it's a little difficult to rotate. But we can see a lot of noise coming up through the top. So very simply, with just a little bit of time before the images can go in and just removing some of the noise, we can get a very, this is the right one. And just by removing a little bit of the noise from the top and the bottom, this is the same set of images with, I mean, maybe 5 minutes of a little bit of extra work of doing just a little bit of denoising here. And we can see how much that clears up a 3D image. Now you guys might notice how there are lines coming straight down the sides of these. You may notice there are lines running down the sides of these. Now that, I would like to point out, that's where we're getting the movement from the breathing. So as the mouse was moving, as it was breathing, as its chest was, as lungs were filling with air, we're getting these tiny movements within those 3D images. And of course, it could be all removed, or it could be image stacked to remove all of that, but I didn't take the time to do that on this particular image here. But as we can see, just a simple quick scan, we can take it and be able to process it into a 3D image here as well. Okay, and let me close this guy down here. And I just want to do just a couple differences of segmentation. This is just an idea. Oh. I'll expand that, zoom. So Iowa has a free segmentation software, and this is kind of an idea of what a free segmentation software is going to look like. It will give you fairly close lines, but they're not going to be perfect, but it is an option to do free segmentation. And then of course there are much fancier, much higher end paid segmentations. This is a software called Voxeleron, or at least just a picture of the software of Voxeleron. And what this will do is this will help you get multiple things, as well as segmentation. It'll help you map out what your layers are. It will show you angiography. It will help show thicknesses. And there's quite a few different examples of different analytic softwares out there. But there is a range from, of course, free software to expensive software, which would be this Voxeleron. And then there's very, very expensive software that it's hard to get images of that software without having it. But segmentation is very capable in OCT machines as well.
Okay. So I think that pretty much covers all the things that we wanted to show in terms of the Rodent OCT. Just kind of recap that. Wanted to kind of demonstrate data acquisition, kind of the things that go into it, tips, tricks, the real world of conducting these types of rodent OCTs. And then you can see that you want to be able to have that 2D and 3D capture capability. And of course, we want to have as clean and stable images as possible. So you can kind of see kind of the challenges of doing that. And of course, whatever images you save, you want to be able to post-process those and to look at them so they're nice and clean, be it for publication, or even if you just want to do some other data analysis, sometimes just doing the denoising and just some cleanup gives you better files to work with in terms of doing that post-processing to get the best looking images. And then lastly, once you have this really pretty images, every system, you're going to want to be able to conduct the analysis. And in the OCT world, it's really kind of measurements, or so I should say segmentation, measurements, angiography, looking at thickness is those things which are part of the analysis. So that's basically the process of doing the rodent OCTs. I think that's what we wanted to show you today. And we have a couple minutes here. I guess we could say leave it open to any questions. I know Jillian, you may be in the background answering everything, so maybe you might want to highlight that which we should maybe discuss.
So the OCT application, is it first exported out?
Okay, so Jeremy, your question about his post-processing, is it within the OCT application? We do have an averaging capability in post-processing. The ViewQ software is basically outside of the OCT application at this time. It's its own kind of step. We definitely have plans here in 21 where we're going to be adding some of these features into the software and giving you the ability to kind of choose the post-processing workflow, if you will, and that it just does it automatically. So that's something that's in process. But yeah, so right now we definitely have the core data and we definitely have the post-processing. Talking and working with different people, we're trying to build a better system so that the output is in a format that's more usable, both for research, and then we're also making sure that this has some applicability to the clinician, because we want them to get really, really good images, want to be able to analyze them quickly, use it for diagnosis, and go treat the patient accordingly without having to do a lot of futzing around. So there's a couple challenges that here at OcuScience we're trying to be sensitive to all of our type of users, and building the software and giving those features and functionality. But a lot of what we've done is because we're trying to keep the price of the system down and the value of it very great. And the way we're doing that is we're not trying to load it up with a bunch of software that you may or may not need. We want to make it open so you can choose the software that you need for the particular application that you have.
If you should need any assistance with the course, technology, or any problem, please feel free to email us at info@ocu-science.com or call us at 866-250-3937, extension 6, and we'll be happy to help you. Thank you again for attending our course.